Hello, dear friends. Welcome to English Stories Cube. Before we begin, I have a question for you. When you think of Christmas, what's the first image that comes to your mind? Let me guess. Is it a jolly old man with a white beard, wearing a red suit, carrying gifts in a big bag? Yes, we're talking about Santa Claus. But here's an interesting question. Who is Santa Claus? Where did he come from? Is he just a story? Or is there a real person behind this magical character? Today, we're going on a fascinating journey through time. We'll travel back almost 2,000 years to discover the real story of Santa Claus. And I promise you, the true story is even more amazing than the fairy tales. This lesson is perfect for you if you're learning English at level 2 or 3. Don't worry if you don't understand every word. Just relax, listen, and enjoy the story. You can always listen again, and I'll speak clearly and use simple words. Are you ready? Let's begin our adventure. Part 1. The Birth of a Saint. Our story begins a long, long time ago, around the year 280 AD. That's almost 1,800 years ago. In a place called Patara, which is in modern-day Turkey, a baby boy was born. His name was Nicholas. Nicholas was born into a wealthy family. His parents were rich, which means they had a lot of money. But sadly, when Nicholas was still young, his parents died from a terrible disease. This was a very sad time for Nicholas, but something beautiful happened. Before his parents died, they taught Nicholas an important lesson. True happiness comes from helping others. Nicholas never forgot this lesson. When he grew up, he decided to use all his money to help poor people, sick people, and children who had nobody to take care of them. Part 2. The Secret Gift Giver. Nicholas became a priest, which is a religious leader in the Christian church. Later, he became the Bishop of Myra, a city near the sea. Bishop Nicholas was loved by everyone because he was kind, generous, and always ready to help. But here's the most interesting part. Nicholas liked to give gifts secretly. He didn't want people to know it was him. He wanted to help people without getting any praise or thanks. Let me tell you one of the most famous stories about Saint Nicholas. There was a poor man who had 3 daughters. In those days, when a young woman wanted to get married, her family had to give money or gifts to the husband's family. This was called a dowry. But this poor father had no money. He was so sad because without a dowry, his daughters couldn't get married. He thought they would have a very difficult life. Nicholas heard about this family's problem. So, one night, when everyone was sleeping, Nicholas went to their house very quietly. He climbed onto the roof and dropped a bag of gold coins down the chimney. The gold fell right into a sock that was hanging by the fire to dry. Can you imagine the surprise the next morning? The family woke up and found gold in the sock. The father was so happy. He didn't know who gave them this wonderful gift. Nicholas did this 2 more times for the other 2 daughters. But the 3rd time, the father was curious. He wanted to know who this generous person was. So he stayed awake and waited. When Nicholas came with the 3rd bag of gold, the father saw him and recognized him. The father wanted to thank Nicholas and tell everyone, but Nicholas asked him not to. He said, "Please, don't tell anyone. God knows what I did, and that's enough for me." But of course, eventually, people found out. And this is why we have the tradition of hanging stockings by the fireplace at Christmas. Part 3. More Acts of Kindness. Saint Nicholas was famous for many other kind acts. Here are some more stories. The 3 children. One story tells about 3 children who got lost and were in great danger. Saint Nicholas found them and saved them. After this, he became known as the protector of children. The sailors. Nicholas also helped sailors and people who traveled on ships. One time, sailors were caught in a terrible storm at sea. The waves were huge and the wind was strong. The sailors prayed for help, and suddenly, Nicholas appeared. He calmed the storm and saved their lives. After this, sailors always prayed to Saint Nicholas before traveling. The hungry city. When Nicholas was Bishop of Myra, there was a terrible famine. This means there was no food, and people were starving. Nicholas heard that ships full of grain were passing by the city. He asked the sailors to share some grain with his city. The sailors said, "We can't. The grain is measured, and if we arrive with less grain, we'll be punished." But Nicholas promised them, "Trust me. Give some grain to feed the hungry people, and when you arrive at your destination, you'll still have the exact amount." The sailors trusted him and gave grain to the city. And miracle of miracles, when they arrived, they had the full amount. Nobody could explain it, but the city was saved from hunger. Part 4. From St. Nicholas to Santa Claus. St. Nicholas died on December 6th, in the year 343 AD. People were so sad, but they never forgot his kindness. December 6th became St. Nicholas Day, a special day to remember him and give gifts to children. Over hundreds of years, the story of St. Nicholas spread across Europe. Different countries celebrated him in different ways. In the Netherlands, people called him Santa Claus, St. Nicholas. In Germany, children put out their shoes on St. Nicholas Eve, hoping to find treats inside. In many countries, St. Nicholas became the symbol of Christmas giving. When Dutch people moved to America, which was called New Amsterdam at that time, they brought their Sinterklaas traditions with them. Over time, Sinterklaas became Santa Claus in English. Part 5. The Modern Santa Claus. You might be thinking, but St. Nicholas was a bishop. He wore religious clothes. How did he become the Santa Claus we know today, with the red suit and reindeer? Good question. The modern image of Santa Claus was created over many years. In 1823, an American writer named Clement Clarke Moore wrote a famous poem called A Visit from St. Nicholas, also known as The Night Before Christmas. In this poem, Santa Claus rides in a sleigh pulled by 8 reindeer. The poem also described Santa as a jolly, round man who comes down the chimney. In the 1800s, a cartoonist named Thomas Nast drew pictures of Santa Claus. He gave Santa a workshop at the North Pole and showed elves helping him make toys. In 1931, the Coca-Cola Company used Santa Claus in their advertisements. An artist named Haddon Sundblom painted Santa in a bright red suit, like Coca-Cola's color. These paintings became very famous, and this is the Santa Claus we all recognize today. But remember, even though Santa looks different now, the spirit is the same, giving gifts with love, especially to children, and doing it with joy and generosity. So, dear friends, now you know the real story of Santa Claus. The magical man in the red suit that we see in movies, decorations, and shopping malls is based on a real person, St. Nicholas of Myra. He was a man who loved helping others, especially children and people in need. He gave gifts in secret because he didn't want praise. He just wanted to bring happiness to others. What can we learn from this true story? First, we learn that one person can make a big difference. St. Nicholas was just one man, but his kindness touched thousands of lives. And even today, almost 2,000 years later, we still remember him. Second, we learn that the best gifts come from the heart. St. Nicholas didn't give gifts to become famous. He gave because he truly cared about people. This teaches us that giving is not about how much money we spend, but about how much love we put into it. Third, we learn that stories can change over time, but important values remain. The way we celebrate Christmas and Santa Claus has changed a lot over the centuries. But the message is still the same: love, kindness, and generosity. A real modern story. Before we finish, let me share a beautiful modern story that shows the spirit of St. Nicholas is still alive today. A few years ago, in a small town in America, a man called Secret Santa started secretly giving money to people in need. He would go to hospitals and pay the medical bills of people who couldn't afford them. He gave money to people at supermarkets to help them buy food. He helped homeless people. And he did all of this anonymously. Nobody knew who he was. This went on for many years. Finally, before he died, he revealed his identity. His name was Larry Stewart. He said he started doing this because when he was young and poor, someone helped him secretly, and it changed his life. He wanted to pass on that kindness. Larry Stewart gave away over $1.3 million during his life. Can you imagine? He was a real-life Santa Claus, following in the footsteps of St. Nicholas. This shows us that we don't need to wait for Christmas, and we don't need magic reindeer or a sleigh to be like Santa Claus. We can all be like St. Nicholas by showing kindness to others, helping people in need, and spreading joy in the world. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through history. I hope you enjoyed learning about the real Santa Claus and improved your English listening at the same time. Remember, every time you see Santa Claus this Christmas season, in a mall, on TV, or in decorations, you can think about St. Nicholas and his amazing life of kindness. If you enjoyed this lesson, please practice telling this story to your friends or family in English. It's a wonderful way to improve your speaking skills. I wish you a very happy Christmas season, full of love, joy, and kindness. And remember, the spirit of Santa Claus, the spirit of St. Nicholas, lives in every act of generosity and love. Thank you for listening, and keep learning English with joy.